Joe doesn't know it yet, but we're about to record our first ever podcast while on the road going to an event that he's speaking at today about innovation. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You got me a smoothie? All right, let me go grab my shit. So how do you think about the relationship between experience and performance?
In what context?
Thinking about some of your topic for today, I know you're talking about Cedric and his story. So running a marathon for you, it's obviously an experience, but you are very metric oriented. Mm-hmm. So does that start to put the experience into the category of performance to some extent? You're thinking about it and participating in it differently than if you were like, I just want to do it for the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what's nice about this is my performance goals are based on his. So I don't like the story I'm going to tell is about how he approaches his goals for running these races in such a funny, unorthodox way that taught me a lot about previous races or things you've done in the past that really have no relevance. It's about what's in front of you and what you're going.
Is Cedric's approach to maybe marathon specifically, but his own personal performance goals as structured as yours in terms of measure, improve, iterate? He didn't go into his first marathon like, I just want to do a marathon and just, experience what that's like.
Every time we do it, he's coming up with something crazy. I mean, I'm not joking. One time we were running and he had been carrying all this stuff. I was like, what is this? And it was like, aside from like a tablecloth, it was like a whole Italian meal. Like it was insane. I'm like, dude, you really think you're going to stop and eat any of this stuff? Like, I just carry it the whole time. And finally, like the last mile, like, can I throw this out of my bag? It's like, weigh me down, man. Because I know him, like he wants to eat, but he really can't. Like it's hard to eat solid food like that. So we've went through a lot of iterations, and he's always trying to experiment and iterate and try to get better. But the thing with him is I don't know what to expect. And at one time it caught me off guard because I try to be in the shape that I can run with him tomorrow without training for a marathon. Okay. I try to be always just ready because he can call me and be like, hey, can we go do this? And we're not super fast together. So being in that shape always is something that is just a goal of mine. So I got a little complacent because after we had a PR, a couple races after that were not that great. So then he was Chicago guy. I didn't train at all, zero. I was just kind of I'll go do it. And all of a sudden, where he normally trails off, which is mile 12 or 13, he starts to get slower. He started to get faster, and I wasn't ready. And and all of a sudden, I was just like, all right, man, let's pace yourself, but I was saying it half for myself,
right?
Hey, dude, slow down a little bit. And then by the end of it, by the last mile, he still had gas left. And I was like, dude, let's go, man. And I just, we just ran as fast as we could. And he ended up qualifying for the Boston Marathon at that race, which was not even in the cards,
right?
Which was an hour and a half better than his average time. It's you know what I mean? How do you train for that? An hour and a half? People's PRs are normally
right
a minute, 30 seconds.
So this is really interesting actually because of how performance and metric oriented you are in what you do personally, professionally, fitness, business, and obviously you manage a lot of teams and people and you're trying to optimize performance in them. But do you feel like you can really affect performance in him and in the both of you running together? Or is running the marathon now with him not so much about PRs for you as it is you don't have as much control about the outcome as he does relatively? So does that change how you experience the race?
Yeah, it's pretty fun because my whole goal is to make sure he empties his tank. That's my goal. It's he cannot leave there with the regret that he could push more. If he says he could have done more, I failed. And we've not had that happen yet. And that's why I think he likes running with me, because I could push him enough, but I'm not crazy intense, but I'm dude, let's go. And then we'll develop these techniques and tools. And we've done so many together. Have you been here before?
Final prep. Check your seatbelt.
Boom, 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 boom. So this is where you get into your persona, your alter ego, and you're fucking Tony Robbins today. That's who I am, man. Tony Robbins. And then I get on stage and I morph into myself.
We move on to our opening keynote address. Joe Churro, went from working on an assembly line to building and selling 2 tech companies for more than $200 million combined. He's here to share how he did it, how to spot those opportunities in unlikely places, how to innovate with purpose, and how to turn bold ideas into life-changing businesses. Joe, come on to the stage here.
The story starts at mile 25 of the Chicago Marathon. I'm running as a guide runner, support runner. I help pace and I help provide needs for a friend of mine. His name's Cedric King. Cedric is a Army Ranger and father, family man, overall incredible human. He stepped in an IED in Afghanistan, 2011, and his legs were blown off. I saw him speak in 2015, and that moment changed the trajectory of my life. I was fortunate enough to be asked by him a few years later to guide him in a marathon, and I had no idea what that even meant. We exchanged virtually messages for about 6 months. We were sending each other's workouts, we were communicating, we were talking about fuel plans, and we were really trying to dial things in remotely to get an understanding of how we were gonna run together. So at mile 25, we had 1 mile to go. It was painful when he pointed to a bus stop and said, we have to stop there. The first half of the race, we had been doing really well. I would say like we were over exceeding what I thought we could do. The goal of this was to get 5 hours and 35 minutes. And that number was significant because he had never been to the Boston Marathon before. And for a double amputee, that's the time that he needed to qualify to run Boston. So now I had this mass amount of stress on myself as the first time guide runner to make sure that we hit 5:35. So first half of the race is great. Second half of the race, not so good. Mile 18, he's really struggling, slowing down, and I'm starting to realize like we're not gonna hit 5:35. So at mile 25, it's extra painful when he says he needs to stop again. So we go to this bus stop, we sit down. He has me for the first time help him take off his leg, which was odd in itself. His head's dripping in sweat, and he looks up at me and he goes, bro, what's our time? And I was like, I don't even want to tell you right now. Like, you have a mile to go. If I tell you, you're gonna know we didn't qualify for Boston. So with utter disappointment and anxiety, I say, hey man, we're gonna be at like 6 hours, and if you don't get up now, we might be at 6 hours and 15 minutes. And he looks up at me and he says, bro, I haven't ran a marathon faster than 7 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm like, what? Why did we train for 5 hours and 35 minutes? And he said the most amazing thing to me. He said, because that's what it takes to qualify for the Boston Marathon. In all of the training we did together, I never thought to ask him what his previous times were. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I did, what would have happened? I would have been complacent. 6 hours and 45 minutes would have felt good. So we crossed the marathon line, and here I am, like thinking the whole time I disappointed him. But the point is that what's behind you is irrelevant. What's in front of you is everything.
All right, initial reaction?
I felt good, man. I just let it flow, and I kind of look at people and see what they're vibing to, and I'll adjust a bit. Obviously, I have slides, but I could pivot. I really like the comments at the end. I love questions. Questions are great. What do you think?
Even having heard so much of those stories that are all related, hearing it in that verse just kind of has a different feel that just lands more deeply, I think. So does that stuff like really fuel you?
Totally. The first few lines of like how I kick it off, I think about, and then from there I just go into it. And then I just know from missing elements before, like when I did the Cedric story once, I didn't say the part about, I never thought to ask him his time, but then that's just like a funny thing because I was so green at being a guide runner, I never thought to ask him, like, probably the most important question, like, what's your pace?
Well, that in some ways just goes back to what we were talking about before we went in. What is purely for experience? What is for performance? It's still not the right word that I really want, but like when you're thinking about what do I want to get out of this experience,
yeah,
right? That you would go into it thinking like, okay, what are our baselines here? Where are we going to try to go to next? Who knows? Maybe in the back of your head, you never asked him about that because you were like thinking about the experience of it all for yourself as a first-time guide runner, but also like this is for him, not for me.
Right. It was just like, here's the mission, 5:35. Here's our splits. Here's our pace. But I think, yeah, when you see Cedric's leg like that, and like, it just paints a picture.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, you never know where, well, I never know where I'm going to get those moments of inspiration, right? And that's such an obvious one. Like, how do you hear Cedric's story and not get inspired? But I think that in the same way, you can be sitting in any kind of presentation like today. I mean, that's the same environment in which you first heard Cedric's story.
Mm-hmm.
And how many other times have you heard somebody say something that just kind of sticks in your brain? Of, wow, I gotta really think about that more deeply and more thoroughly over time, and before you know it, it's part of your life view.